I'd like you to give a great big hand for Terry Hornby, the principal of Coolum Beach Christian College, who's going to lead us this morning.
Thank you, Pastor Rod, Pastor Tim, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having us here today. Today we gather as a community of Christians. Sometimes we're called the people of the book. This book. Thank you so much. Thank you. Within this book lies the messages that God has told us about how He wants us to live. When we read this book over and over again, many, many times we're struck by the intricacies that are brought into it. A story we once read, we can read again and realise there are things we never knew were in there. God has revealed something new. Sometimes you read the stories and think, they put that in. That was lucky. And it wasn't lucky at all. It's like looking at a picture on a wall, a painting of a crowd scene, where you stand back and you say, that's a lovely picture. And then you look at the first few faces in the front row and think, that's nice. Then you go back the next day and look at it again, you see some people in the back row, or in the middle, or someone behind the pillar. Every time we look into this book, we see something different. We see something different. It's constructed with stories. Jesus tells us stories. There's the story of the paralyzed man to teach us things. And like all good stories, there's a main figure. It's Jesus. We go to the movies to watch stories. We read books and we read stories. And there's always the hero, the swashbuckler, who runs through the castle to rescue the princess. And as he runs through the castle, he sweeps aside the odd guard. Or he creeps up stealthily and knocks someone on the head and then runs in to rescue somebody from the dragon. There's always somebody on the side that the hero dashes past and either ignores or knocks over. Generally some poor soldier holding a spear. We sometimes call that the spear carrier role. They're just there to make up the numbers and make the hero look good. The spear carrier role. When we look in the Bible, I'm always interested in the spear carrier roles in the Bible. And Luke, Matthew, other parts of the Gospels have the story of the paralyzed man. I love that story. I love the fact that Jesus is talking to the Pharisees and instructing them about what they need to know, answering their challenges. Then I think about this paralyzed man. And in Matthew it says, and they brought to him a paralytic lying on a bed. They brought to him a paralytic. Luke says, and some men were carrying on a bed a man who was paralyzed. Who were these men? They're his neighbours, his family, his friends. Is this the first time they've done it? They break into his house and say, come on, pal, on the bed. Or was this something they've done every day? They've always gone to this man's house and cared for him, cleaned him, fed him. I suspect they did. I suspect these people who carried the stretcher made that man's life livable. And somehow they heard about the Messiah and said, we need to take him to the Messiah. So they did. Now I'm sure when Jesus was there, given the nature of what happened next, there were some crowds in the street. So the first obstacle they had was carrying this man on a stretcher through a crowded street. It's not an easy task. And they get to the house where Jesus is, and it's so full they can't get through the door. Okay, let's give it away, fellas. It's too hard. No, didn't do that. What sort of conversation took place? We've got to get our friend in to see Jesus. We've got to get him in there. We've got to do whatever it takes. Let's climb the walls. Okay. Let's strap him to the stretcher maybe. Put a rope under it. Let's pull him up the walls. Okay. And they did. Just imagine you go outside looking at the buildings out here, the schools, strapping someone to a stretcher and you climbing up that wall with that person. But these people did. They did whatever they could to get this man to the presence of Jesus. And they're on the roof. What sort of a day was it? Raining? Hot? If it's hot, they're probably sweaty. They've done a fair bit already. Here we are. What are we going to do? Okay, let's break through the roof. Now, some of those houses had central courtyards which had an open roof, but in inclement weather and cold weather they put tiles up. So it may have been just a matter of moving a few of those tiles, but it may have been a matter of moving lots of tiles and other debris. And we'll lower the man down. So there's Jesus and the Pharisees and the teachers sitting, talking, and the roof gets ripped apart and this bloke gets lowered down on a rope. And the rest of the story is fascinating, but that's the point I want to talk about now. These people did whatever they could to bring that man into the presence of Jesus. Whatever they could. Today, we are here as a dedication service to dedicate the staff of Coolum Beach Christian College, a lovely college, a place I just adore. Filled with teachers. Some people are teachers in the classroom. Some are teachers as they drive the bus, or mow the lawns, trim the plants, make the photocopies. We're all teachers at that school. We're all looking after your children. We're trying to do the same thing as those friends of that paralysed man. We will do whatever we can to carry your children into the presence of Jesus. We will climb those walls. We will break through those barriers. We will carry your children into his presence, for we are a Christian school. We'll look down that stretcher and we'll sometimes see your child. But what's interesting about a community of Christians is sometimes we look down the stretcher and we see another staff member and we're carrying that person. And sometimes look down that stretcher and we see ourselves. As a community, we work together to bring ourselves into the presence of Jesus. We are a small school. We do wonderful results. We're big enough to excel, but we're small enough to care for each of those children. I love this school and I love this staff. As a community here today, we are dedicating the staff to the work we do. Please understand that as you carry the person beside you sometimes, as you carry each other as a church community, we as a staff will do whatever we can to carry your children into the presence of God. And with that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's just please join together and share some bread and wine, share in the fellowship, knowing that we are carrying each other's stretchers at some time today.